So this chapter is kind of just a summary, I guess. It's about self-mastery, basically covering what we just talked about in the last video, kind of summing it up. So self-mastery is not achieved through avoidance, but through understanding. We're just going to kind of go through this. It's just touching up on the sympathetic nervous system. Yeah, basically this is just touching up on all we talked about last time. Yeah, all the systems and how they relate and achieve inner harmony. Dopamine chases purpose, not pleasure. Life will feel directed, setting goals and that kind of thing. So I'm not gonna go too much on this chapter, but that's kind of what inner alchemy is. Like you hear about alchemy and all of that. That's what that all is inner work. So the next chapter is more of a kind of thought-provoking kind of chapter, I believe. Time control through conscious awareness. So time has always been considered a constant, steady rhythm, like a straight line that governs everything from planetary motion to our own heartbeat. Okay. Yet the deeper we look, the more we see it's not fixed, but a fluid experience shaped by your awareness. So through conscious perception, you can bend, stretch, or compress the flow of lived time. And here we go. Let's get into this. Alright, so the nature of subjective time. Physically, time moves at a constant rate, but psychologically in your mind, time expands and contracts depending on how we engage with reality. For instance, boredom makes seconds drag, and when you're doing something fun, hours seem to vanish, go by like a flash. This is not an illusion. It's actually the result of how much sensory and cognitive data the brain processes in a given period. And when you're deeply absorbed into something like a movie or video games, when all of a sudden it's 2 a.m., and you're like, dang, I gotta go to bed. So that's when the mind is taking fewer samples of reality, you're more engaged. With less data, it perceives time as shorter. Here we go. Think of playing a video game for 3 hours. That feels like 30 minutes. Conversely, when you're acutely aware, noticing each sound, texture, and subtle change in the environment, you create a dense network of sensory memories. So like a long walk in nature or a silent meditation session can feel timeless because you're consciously registering so many sensory layers. Emotions play a major role here. Heightened emotional states, whether they be joy, fear, or excitement, can either compress or expand perceived time. So that's like just high emotional states, high energy, like fear can be high energy. It's an exciting, has a lot of energy, and we're not talking about necessarily good energy, but it's just high, like high, not vibration necessarily, but high. There's a lot of energy there, a lot of movement, energetically. So a frightening or a thrilling and fun event may seem to slow down in the moment due to increased sensory processing, while a highly pleasurable event or activity may seem to fly by really fast. So stressful emotions can be seen as a gas pedal, accelerating your perceived time and biological aging, while relaxed emotions act as brakes, slowing both perception and the body's internal clock. And this is how, we're going to get into this, but this is why people who are, most of the people who are like, wow, they look young for their age, it's usually people who are also, if you notice, they're usually like carefree, they don't stress out a lot, and that's what they're kind of tapping into is this. And we'll get into the science of that here in a minute, I think, down here, yeah. So here, emotions are best understood as the state of frequency of mental energy, or energy in motion, that flows through perception and attention. This also explains why what negative emotional states like anger combined with overthinking can make time also seem to fly by, while boredom makes it crawl really slow. And that's why, and maybe I say this, mindfulness and care needed to modulate time in healthy ways. For example, being bored at work. Boredom at work. Ever notice how I don't know why it says that, but a period. Boredom at work. I'll just put like 3 dots. Boredom at work. I don't know why it's formatted like that, but ever notice how a dull work day can feel endless in the moment, but when you look back, the hours seem to fly? When bored, the brain will seek stimulation and escape into fantasies or daydreams. That's why if you're bored at work, you may find yourself like, it goes by faster when you're like daydreaming or thinking or, maybe you have earphones in and you're listening to music, so you're focused on that. or you're talking with a friend and you're laughing, it makes the day go by a lot faster. Uh, and, you know, that also ties in with stress in a way. So this is why you age faster, because when you're like sitting there like stressed out and well, we'll get to it because actually it'll word it better than what I'm gonna say. But these internal experiences move faster than the unstimulating reality around you, effectively compressing your subjective sense of time. However, because these mental simulations aren't deeply encoded as distinct memory, the brain later interprets the day as having passed very quickly. It's a clear demonstration of how observers' attention and imagination can actively shape perceived time. Temporal stretching and compression. Temporal stretching is when you heighten your awareness and slow down to absorb every detail, and the moment will expand. So that's why, for instance, if you're a hunter or something, or if you're waiting say you're waiting in a doctor's office and you're just sitting there and you don't have nothing to do or like read, or you don't have your phone on you, for instance, like time may seem to drag because you're not getting all that sensory data, and your attention is more widened. It's not narrowed in on something. So you perceive more per second, and the world feels slower. Yet in hindsight, the same time feels long and rich, as though you lived more life within it. And that's when you slow down to absorb every detail. When you actually are, that's more like when you're narrowed in, I guess. So activities that promote stretching, activities that include temporal stretching include meditation, painting, slow yoga, cooking mindfully, watching a sunset, or journaling your thoughts and an idea. Let me go ahead and add that so I don't. Temporal stretching. Temporal compression. When your attention narrows, your attention narrows. Let's just see what it says. I may have got mixed up with my words there when I was talking, but the temporal stretching, when you heighten your awareness and slow down to absorb details. So actually, it's when you're opened up. So in the moment, the world seems slower. Okay, so that's kind of like being in a flow state, really. That's what that's like when you're in sports or a fight, for instance. It's like, kind of reminds me of Spider-Man when he first, in the old OG Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire. When he first gets to his abilities, he gets in the fight at school and the punch goes by really slow, and he's like, and it's like, so to him it's like slow in the moment, but then in hindsight, like later on when he's thinking about it, it'd probably be like, a lot faster. And that's kind of how, even in sports, if you get in the zone, or at a job, you get in the zone, even stocking shelves, and you get in like a flow state. And it may seem like slowed down or you're paying attention to every detail, but it's like, in hindsight, it's like, dang, that kind of went by quick, actually, So, anyway, temporal compression is the opposite. This is when your attention narrows and you kind of skip frames, so to speak. So, high dopamine activities like gaming, scrolling on social media, and dancing, exercising, or engaging in an intense creative flow reduce the number of moments you consciously register. So time feels fast in the moment, but in your memory it seems short. So emotional regulation ties directly into this. Modulating the frequency and state of your mental energy, your emotions, you can influence whether time feels stretched or compressed. So racing thoughts act as an accelerator. Okay, and that can be positive thinking, negative, just basically, and we get into this, like you can basically look at mind as time and body as space. So when you're in your thoughts racing, you're accelerating time, or the perception of time, while when you're calm, grounded energy serves as the brakes. So you can consciously direct which side of the spectrum you want to experience. Use stretching when you want to savor and deepen the moment, and use compression when you want to make time fly by. And that's where also the stretching, for instance, when you want to savor a moment and deepen it, that's why when you're doing something fun, if you're in your head the whole time, you're not going to enjoy it. It's gonna just kind of flies by. So you can kind of use this, in other words, to make enjoyable moments actually last longer. So because a lot of people, because I'm saying it kind of like it's automatic, I guess, but a lot of people actually will do an activity they want to enjoy, but they are not really savoring it. They're in their thoughts so much, they're not present, you know. So it actually makes it fly by faster, and they're like, dang, I wish that lasted longer. And you can kind of see that with like, you know, you can see it, you can test that out in your own life. There's different examples, but we're gonna continue on. Paradox of time control. To make time seem faster in hindsight, you must actually slow it down in experience. Okay, in hindsight to see that it feels paradoxical, but here's how it works. So while you're actually experiencing and doing something, the more sensory input, and that doesn't mean thinking and stuff. It means like feeling, smelling. The more like present you are, like in your senses, and like kind of like you know, kind of like that hunting analogy we talked about in the last video. How you can be in the deer stand, like you're like just in the moment, or on the lake fishing, like you're feeling the wind, the sun, like you're smelling the you know, scent of cedar trees, and hearing a squirrel bark at you in a tree, or you know, like you have all this input, and it slows down time, especially when you recall it, or when you recall it. It seems like when recalling, there's more memories, so it seems like a longer sense of time passed. I don't know if I read that right, but thus present stretches both the moment and the memory. So when you want to fly through time by even in the wait, let me reread that. But when you want time to fly by, even in the moment, okay, you can do the opposite of that. So while you're experiencing, you narrow your focus and engage fully on a single high immersion activity. So like playing music or a sport or working on an absorbing project. When you narrow in on your focus, this is when time can fly by. Like if you play guitar or instruments, you can sit there for like 4 hours and like, dang, time's really flew by. Or video games. But when you're recalling, there's fewer distinct memories, and time will feel shorter in retrospect. So emotions again influence this process. So high engagement energy like joy or passion or excitement can accelerate perceived time, while when you're calm and peace, blissed out or whatever, or contemplative, the energy will allow for expansion. So negative energy states can manipulate time too. Anger and overthinking speed it up. Boredom slows it down. Both extremes show how time can be influenced positively or negatively, highlighting the need for mindful attention and care. This is the key to mastering both sides of temporal control, the expansion and compression of time. Okay. So, practicing conscious time manipulation. You can train this like a mental art form, a kind of temporal mindfulness practice. Try this dual mode exercise. So, mode 1 is time expansion. You choose I may reformat this. I don't like this. It's time expansion. Let me see. Time expansion. Anyway, I'll come back to this. Time expansion. Choose a neural activity such as washing dishes, walking, showering, or stretching. Okay? And when you do that, enter full awareness. Notice every physical, mental, and emotional sensation. The temperature, the sounds, the textures, the movements, thoughts that you do have pop up, feelings. You just like notice, like you're trying to be completely engaged, kind of like that hunter in the stand, you know? Just like watching for a deer coming by, or like the you know, I don't know, you want to be like just engaged, like watching, and you want to avoid the autopilot mode where you just kind of let your mind drift and blah blah blah, get in fantasy up here, and you bring it back down here into the sensory and energetic. Now you don't have to ignore your thoughts, but you don't want to be like fixated on that. You know, you let your thoughts come up as they do, but don't like just sit up in the mind. That'd kind of be like you going hunting, like I said, like using that analogy, and staring up at the tree above you the whole time. It's like you're going to miss what's going on out here. So bring your eyes back down here. You know, if something happens up here, you'll hear it, you know, in the leaves and stuff. So avoid autopilot mode and just get back to the present, the now. Then after the task, like when you're done washing dishes or going on a walk and you're noticing things, my old high school baseball coach kind of said, to actually make we used to go run 2 miles, and he'd say to make it go by faster. It's just kind of something that's kind of come up to me just now. to make it go by faster and make the run more enjoyable, he would say, look for something new that you hadn't seen. Look for something new. There's something new every day out there, whether it's a bird's nest or like an ant bed, or someone got a new car over there. Like, just try to be like observant, and that's a good way to like kind of look and keep your mind in that kind of state as well. That's a little exercise that he kind of taught us that I always remembered, that I thought was pretty cool. So after you do this task, like maybe it's a walk or you're washing dishes or whatever, cleaning your house or whatever it may be, reflect on how long it felt compared to the clock or the actual time. Notice how the memory of it holds more detail. And then in the other mode, you can say time compression, or that's time compression. Choose an engaging or repetitive task, such as working out, gaming, cleaning, practicing an instrument, or creative writing. Okay, so this is more of a repetitive task, okay? So narrow your focus to the core goal. Minimize sensory input, emotional distraction, and internal commentary. Stay fully absorbed. Flow state, no meta thinking. Afterward, reflect on how fast the time passed and how few detailed memories it left behind. By alternating between these modes and consciously modulating the inner state or the state and frequency of your mental energy, you can learn to expand or compress time through willful shifts in attention and feeling. So racing thoughts accelerate experience and aging. Calm, grounded energy slows it. The more present and energetically balanced you become, the more elastic time feels. And I'm going to have to reread that real fast myself because I'm kind of confused. Let me see. Afterward, reflect on how fast the time passed. Oh, wait. Okay, so Model 2, time compression. Choose an engaging task. Engaging or repetitive task. What was Model 1? Choose a neutral activity. Walking, neutral activity. I thought it said neural for some reason. Inner full awareness, neutral activity. Walking. Stretching, okay. Working out, gaming, cleaning. Predator. Let's see. Narrow your focus to the core goal. Under sensory input. Minimize sensory input. Okay, that's okay. I think I misread that. Or saw it. Minimize sensory input. So this is where you're not absorbing all the sensory data. You're just like focused on what you're actually doing. And it says this will make it compress time. So this makes it, I don't know how fast time flies. This is like when you're having fun. Okay, that's what the video games. It's a good one. Because you're not like, when you're playing a game, you're not feeling the wind on your neck. And, you're just like completely zoned in on the actual. So you're narrow in your focus. So basically when you narrow your focus on something and like zoom in on one thing, you are in this time compression. That's where time seems to fly by fast. But when you open your awareness up, and you could probably even do that with the video game, it probably would be hard to do. But if you can like be aware of the room around you and the sounds in the room and the game and everything, like your body and stuff, then yeah, I guess you could do this while you're doing that, or Model 1. But that's kind of like some examples of that. I don't want to get hung up on that. But the energy and balance of time control. It's important to remember that time control requires energy and emotional regulation and balance, constantly trying to make time fly can exhaust your nervous system because compressing time relies on sustained focus, energetic intensity, and dopamine release. Overuse of this mode through excessive stimulation, drugs, or endless scrolling can leave you feeling drained, anxious, and disconnected from real experience. Likewise, forcing time to stretch for too long can lead to mental fatigue or over-awareness. The goal is harmony, knowing when to speed up time. So basically, balance like anything else. Like you want to be able to use both states of consciousness as are beneficial to you and not get stuck in one or the other. Because sometimes you need to like be able to focus on something like that, and sometimes you need to slow time down and relax and whatnot. So anyway, this is how you control the biological time of your cells or whatever. So stress, youth, and aging. We often think of time as mental, but the body keeps its own clock. So when you stress out, when you stress, you're speeding up each cell. Like each cell is aging faster. You can imagine a cell's like a clock, and it's like ticking faster whenever you're stressing. So when you're calm, it slows this down. This is like the stress-free people, how they age slower. When you live in a constant state of tension, overthinking, deadlines, fear, overthinking, and the need to keep up, hustle culture and all that, your cells burn through resources faster. This is cortisol, the stress hormone, and shortens telomeres and increases inflammation. So your body moves into survival mode, prioritizing reaction over regeneration. The result is faster aging, both on the inside and outside. Most modern stress isn't physical, it's perpetual, generated by thoughts and energetic state of the mind. So when you live relaxed, sleeping well, and emotionally, energetically balanced, unbothered by constant pressure, staying grounded, the opposite happens. Your system is relaxed and time goes by slower and all that. And you age slower, basically. So time requires an observer. An important principle emerges from physics and philosophy. Time may not exist independently of observation. Without a conscious observer, there is no experience, and thus no measured or perceived flow of time. In quantum mechanics, certain interpretations suggest that events only become real when observed. From a psychological standpoint, past, present, and future exist solely within consciousness. This reinforces the core of time control. The observer is the engine of experience. By shaping attention, perception, and the energetic state of your mind, you directly influence how time flows for you. Without an observer, without conscious awareness, time has no texture, no elasticity, and no direction. Modulating perception and mental energy isn't just about experience, it's about generating time itself. So, basically, showing how much, how much you affect the perception of time. Perception and emotions as controllers of physical time, okay. Controlling awareness, intention, this is just kind of touching up on what we've talked about, I think. It's kind of, energy, emotion also affects, just telling you some extra stuff here. Let's actually look at it a little bit. So suggestive experience is shaped by focus, attention, okay. Biological aging in response to the stress generated through perception. Attention and awareness can directly influence the release of hormones and neurotransmitters such as cortisol and whatnot. High frequency or agitated mental energy like worry, stress, overthinking accelerates your biological clock, leading to inflammation and cellular wear, making you age faster, where the opposite is true. When you relax and slow down, you repair, regenerate, and all that. The immune system responsiveness is sensitive to the energetic state of the mind. When you're calm, present awareness supports recovery. Calm present awareness supports recovery and disease resistance, while chronic agitation or mental tension can impair immune function. And some of y'all probably noticed this, when you're, I think I've noticed this when I've been worrying, or when I was on social media too much or something. It almost seems like sometimes when I've worried about stuff and then I drink a coffee or something, and I'm in that racy thought mode. Sometimes I can seem like I get a cold, I'm more prone to get a cold or something the next day, or feel down, and sick kind of. But I'm just throwing that out there. Energy and motion also affects metabolism and cardiovascular health. So racing thoughts and high emotional intensity will also increase your heart rate and energy expenditure. So you're working your heart more, and basically it's kind of like a car. Look at yourself as a car. You're putting more miles on the car, basically. You're going at a faster speed, so you're covering more distance, in your car, and you're putting more miles on your body and mind, so you're aging faster. So mindfulness, meditation, creative work, breath work, getting out of nature, and all that can slow your clock. And that's pretty much that chapter. So now we're moving on to becoming like angels, the inner union of masculine and feminine. So in Matthew 22:30, Jesus says, "In the resurrection they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like the angels in heaven." First glance, this might seem like a simple statement about the absence of marriage or sexual relationships in the afterlife, but a closer symbolic reading reveals a profound spiritual truth. Humans in their highest state achieve a union within themselves, a wholeness or holiness that transcends earthly polarity. So angels, and you hear some people say angels, but we're going to stick with angels as wholes. Angels, as depicted in mystical and religious traditions, are often portrayed with both masculine and feminine qualities. They are complete, balanced beings. This androgyny is more than artistic representation. It symbolizes unity, the reconciliation of opposites, and the transcendence of duality. Because angels embody both masculine and feminine principles, they do not need to marry. the union that marriage represents on earth. This coming together of complementary energies has been achieved internally. Angels are whole. They do not seek completion outside of themselves. Humans in the quest for inner unity. Humans, in contrast, experience a sense of division. We carry within us both masculine and feminine energies, active and receptive, logical and intuitive, giving and nurturing, but often these energies are unbalanced or repressed, leading to a lifelong search for completion in another person. Romantic love, in the sense, becomes the symbolic quest for your missing half. Mystical traditions, particularly in Gnosticism, describe humans as the original dual beings split into masculine and feminine aspects. This concept, called syzygy or syzygy in Greek, for pair or union, highlights that true fulfillment comes from not external partnership, but from internal integration. All right, and the Gospel of Thomas, an internal union. The Gospel of Thomas emphasizes this principle of inner wholeness. In saying 22, Jesus teaches, when you make the two one, and when you make the inside like the outside, and the outside like the inside, then you will enter the kingdom. This statement points directly to spiritual maturation. Humans become like the angels. And it kind of reminds me of in Genesis 3:22, around there, like the following verses, it says, he's become like one of us. It sounds like God talking to the angels. Become like one of us, like one of the angels, perhaps. Because there's good and evil, which is duality, and love, or the fruit of life, is like back into non-duality oneness, like uniting, merging those. It's all symbolic. But humans become like the angels when they unite the dual aspects of themselves, harmonizing their inner masculine and feminine energies. The marriage of heaven is symbolic, a union of one's own soul, a reconciling of what was once divided. And it's also, that's why I think it was it Paul? Yeah, Apostle Paul, who says, I think it was him who said, it's better not to marry. It's better to be like us, the prophets, not to marry, or something like that. But he does say, but if you do, if you need to, like, it's not bad to marry. He kind of says, basically, if it helps you, like, to overcome lust and stuff, it's not bad. But the ideal would be to, like, I think that's what he's actually kind of pointing at. So, because marriage isn't bad. It's just like the micro, I guess you could say, or to macro, or the shadow, I guess you could say. Like, we all cast a shadow. It's like the earthly version of this. That's the heavenly version of marriage, and this is the earthly version, I guess you could say. So, from earthly love to angelic wholeness. In practical terms, the journey can be understood in 3 stages. Earthly life, humans are divided, seeking balance through partnership, relationship, and love. Spiritual awakening through introspection, mindfulness, and inner work. Humans integrate their inner opposites, shadow work and whatnot. Reconciling the active and receptive, the conscious and subconscious, the masculine and feminine. Becoming like angels is when the soul achieves wholeness. External union is no longer necessary because the marriage has already occurred internally. The human has become whole, balanced, and complete, embodying the harmony that angels naturally possess. This interpretation frames the idea, or reframes the idea, of no marriage in heaven, from limitation to fulfillment. Marriage and love are not absent in heaven. They are realized internally. Earthly longing, which drives us to seek connection with another, finds its resolution within the self. In essence, to become like angels is to achieve the ultimate union, not with another, but with the deepest, most essential parts of yourself. And put this here, each of us is a ray of the same eternal light. Like, it's a source, and we're all a ray of light, an expression of source. So I don't want, like, people, a lot of New Agers, they like to word it, you are God. And no, it's not you are God. That'd be like a ray of light saying it's the sun, or your finger saying it's whoever you are. Really, it's more like this, the sun, God is us. Just like when you're playing a video game, for instance, Legend of Zelda will say, you are Link. Link is not you. You know what I'm saying? So, I just want to throw that out there because a lot of people may, I don't know, that whole, like, you are God, like, that's ego BS. It'd be like if you're doing a puppet show and you're all of a sudden the puppet turned back at you and said, I'm God, or something, I just wanted to, like, clarify that. Anyway, the biology of reaction, body, mind, and spirit. Wonder when we started. Anyway, in the modern world, we are constantly bombarded with triggers designed to hijack our attention. News headlines, political drama, and social media rage bait. Each one plays directly into the primitive wiring of the human nervous system, the very mechanisms that helped us once upon a time survive in nature and now are being exploited by systems that profit from our emotional engagement. You know, they need us to click and like and dislike and comment. Every time you comment, like, and argue, these people try to trigger you because they know the psychology. And a lot of people like to say, like, I've talked to people about psychology and it's kind of interesting. They're like, oh, that sounds like some woo-woo astrology girl stuff. And it's like, believe what you want, bro. There's a reason they spend billions of dollars on Super Bowl ads. I mean, if you want to be a sheep, put your head in the sand like an ostrich, go ahead. But, you know, this is what anyway. It's kind of like not having a manual to your computer and someone can control your computer, you know, and you don't know what the heck's going on or something like that. Or a mechanic can sit there and sell you a bunch of crap because you don't know anything about a vehicle. And you go to the mechanic shop and just get taken for a ride and manipulated. So, of course, they don't want you. That's why I don't teach psychology in high school and stuff. So anyway, historically, emotional states like anger, fear, and lust served vital biological functions. When our ancestors felt fear, it meant a predator was nearby. When they felt anger, it was usually for defense of a territory, tribe, or survival. Lust, even back then, required vigilance because competition for mates could be fierce, and success often depended on readiness and aggression. So those things served back in the ancient times and more primitive times of human society and whatnot, or history. And these high energy emotional states demanded immediate attention. The body learned to prioritize them above calm reflection or long-term thinking because in the wild, hesitation could mean death. So in other words, they didn't have time to sit there and think and meditate and come up with a plan. A lot of these times they had to. You don't have time when the enemy tribe would run up with and try to steal your cave women or whatever, or you know. So these things, you know, you don't see like a deer, you know, or animals, you know, sitting around. You know, it's more instantaneous in the wild, and these people fast forward to the present. So we live in cities now, not jungles, but our biology has not changed much since those days. What has changed is how those instincts are manipulated. Okay. And you can kind of even see this in deer. Like some people will use like doe urine or whatever, and it has like I forgot what it's called. It's like basically has like estrogen in it or something. They smell it like attracts the male buck, and then you can look at that as like freaking you know, that's kind of like that lust like in the nature biologically, and humans still have that in their beastly nature part of their being. And these companies know that, so like they have like a little bottle of doe urine, which is on the internet on these websites you go to, and then it attracts you, and then they make money off of it. So they know how to manipulate. It's just different. They just do it in different ways. So every time you run to that like website and get the itch, like or whatever, or the OnlyFans, that's like that little like the hunter or these corporations or rich elite or whatever. It's like they're like, you know, baiting you, using your biology against you. So, modern media and algorithms understand that fear and outrage also grab attention faster than joy or peace. Negative headline or controversy post activates the same ancient survival circuits in the brain. Amygdala fires, adrenaline spikes, focus narrows. So, like even like that, negative headlines or controversial post, you could imagine like a deer, like you're a buck in the woods, and you hear like another buck in the distance, like calling out, and you know, rubbing its horns and stuff, and then they'll go and fight and stuff. So it's like they know that, you know, it's kind of in the same way. It's kind of like with this negative headline is like that deer in the woods, the rival, like trying to get get a reaction out of you, or rather, I guess the hunter really, you know, rattling the horns, trying to get you to go over there so he can shoot you, aka get you to comment and get engagements and on a social media post and make money and get more advertisement dollars and all that. So it's become a real big game because everybody wants to make money because they were told to be rich and you gotta hustle and be cool, bro. But anyway, there you go on that. And basically, Chronic activation of the stress response accelerates aging, impairs immunity, lowers cognitive performance. So all this stuff, and this is it's kind of interesting. The people who are like rich and elite and stuff, they don't age as fast, it seems, but they understand all this. They're the ones doing this. They're the ones implementing this in their business. They know how to, they're not going to get caught in their own trap. Like the hunter's not going to step in his own bear trap unless he just forgets or something. He becomes clumsy. Well, so they're out here playing chess while a lot of people play checkers because they disregard this stuff as woo-woo nonsense, which is interesting. But anyway, because where do they even get that idea? Usually that's programmed into them. Someone told them that it's woo-woo nonsense. Anyway, this is why mindfulness is essential, not a passive escape, but a reclaiming one's biological sovereignty. And I'm not going to sit on that too much. Just remember, you are not the body or the mind. True I, the self, the awareness behind thought and sensation is not bound by these impulses. Studying psychology is a good idea. Anyway, especially Carl Jung's work. But it becomes once you see the distinction clearly, the world's manipulation becomes transparent. You can notice that the society's chaos stems from those who know how to pull the strings of the body's instincts. So that's what they literally pay millions of dollars in advertise. That's what advertising and marketing is literally about, is using psychology against you. And, most people don't know anything about psychology. Should be taught in school. If they're going to teach, it kind of throws me off. I remember it was literally, this is a little side note, I remember when I was in college, they literally made you pay like $900 a semester, like for a mandatory bowling class. Yes, you had to go bowl. It was mandatory. It's like, I have to pay money. You're making me go bowling on Wednesday nights or something. And I got out of that somehow. I don't know how I got out of that. But that was like an elective. You had to take an elective or something, and that was like one of them. It was like, I don't know. Y'all won't teach. You're going to make someone go bowling but not learn how to control their body and mind. Interesting. Anyway. Go to the bowling alley where they serve alcohol and stuff. And anyway, I'm get off that because anyway, they need to fix the education system. It's a joke, more like a brainwashing system. But anyway, skip that. Symbolically, this inner battle can be seen as the classic story of like Legend of Zelda. You have Link, Zelda, and Ganondorf. So, and this is according to the Ocarina of Time. That's the one I played back in the day, but. Here, Link represents spirit, the awakened self, the consciousness striving toward truth and freedom. Zelda could represent the mind or wisdom, intellect, and intuition that often finds itself trapped or influenced by forces of the material world, and she's held captive up in the tower, much like the mind is confined within the skull, the tower of the body, the highest peak where thought resides. And Ganondorf himself represents the body, the primal instinctual nature driven by desire, control, and survival. At least he represents that beastly nature of the body. The spirit, Link, must confront and master the body, Ganondorf, to free the mind, Zelda, restoring harmony to your kingdom within. So and that's where this timeless, damsel in distress up in the tower, symbolism, that's what it's coming from, is like it's a timeless symbol that is deeper than just some random story, and it's inspired by the divine. So maybe like, and that's another thing you gotta understand, is like an artist, like I think I've mentioned this, an artist may not say, oh yeah, I'm writing Legend of Zelda, that's what it means. They may deny that that's what it, like if you go ask them, they just, I didn't write it like that, that's not what it means. We have to realize that they are a pen in God's hand, just like their pen's in their hand. Like God is the author of this story that we're all in. His story is using them. So the pen may say, I didn't mean that. And so I just want to throw that out there again. But this allegory mirrors the human condition, to watch the world's chaos without letting it dictate your emotions is not indifference, it's mastery. So then you have the Triforce here, courage, wisdom, and power, as we all know. Symbolically, the Triforce represents the balance within each person: courage or spirit and action, wisdom, mind and insight, power, body and drive. And it kind of reminds me of like Logos, Christ, in Gnosticism, Sophia or wisdom or the Holy Spirit, and then you have the body, demiurge, etc. and perhaps. But anyway, moving on to the next part. A cross within the skull, the alchemy of suffering, awakening, and the divine script. So the cross has long been seen as a symbol of suffering, sacrifice, and redemption, yet beneath the religious veneer lies a deeper metaphysical truth, the cross as the very architecture of existence itself. Anyway, the cross is the meeting of the worlds. The cross represents an intersection, the point where opposites converge. The vertical axis descends from the eternal spirit and consciousness and timeless potential, and the horizontal extends through temporal space, form, and sensory potential, or sensory experience, So when these two meet, physical reality emerges, the plane of existence in which awareness localizes itself as human life. So the cross is not only a symbol of faith, but it's a symbol of incarnation, spirit through the act of intersection, meeting, and becomes matter, So the infinite compresses itself into the finite, and time begins. The crucifixion as inner alchemy. So the story of the crucifixion mirrors this inner cosmic process, and the death of Christ on the cross is not the end of life, but the transmutation of being. It symbolizes the dissolution of the ego, the false self that identifies polarity with left and right, gain and loss, fear and desire, in being crucified between opposites. Consciousness frees itself from the pull of duality and awakens to its true nature, unity. So the cross becomes the psychological furnace where the fragmented self is purified. The death on the cross is the death of separation. The resurrection is the rebirth of wholeness. Golgotha, if you know, in the Bible, it says Scripture names the place of the crucifixion as Golgotha, which means, if you look it up, the place of the skull. The place of the skull. In esoteric understanding, this is not merely a hill in Palestine. It is the human head itself, the seat of perception and awareness. Also, I don't know if I mention it here, but Jesus died at 33, and you have 33 vertebrae until you reach the skull where he is crucified. It's all symbolic, and that's not to say this didn't happen physically or in this world, but like as above, so below. So this probably did happen in real life. I'm not saying that. It's kind of both. It's symbolic and it's not symbolic, and it's literal. It's paradoxical because God can do anything. But within the skull lies a hidden cross. A lot of people don't know this. An anatomical cruciform in your skull formed by the vertical flow of energy through the spinal column and brainstem, intersecting the horizontal bridge of the hemispheres. So I believe that's the corpus callosum, and it may say that. The thalamus stands at the center of this cross, acting as the great relay through which all sensory experience must pass before it reaches consciousness. Just above that is the pineal gland, or the ancient third eye, resting in its small chamber. And something I just recently learned, we have all this right now, the 3-eye atlas comet, and I was looking at that 3-eye atlas, and I looked it up because I was like, 3-eye reminds me of third eye. And Atlas, I was like, what does Atlas mean? It sounded familiar. I knew about the Greek god holding up the sky, but Atlas is also the final, is like the vertebrae up here connecting to the skull. So I was like, interesting. That could be like a cosmic, that could be a sign right there. This 3-eye Atlas. And if you go look up how they named that comet, that's not what apparently they named it for. But again, like God will inspire people to do things that they think they're doing it. Their ego takes the credit, but it's really God's like working through them, like because they just have forgotten their true identity. They don't know. Once you become conscious, it's like you are aware, you're awake. And it's pretty awesome. So the 3 crosses. Okay, so at the crucifixion at Golgotha stood 3 crosses, with cross in the middle. So a trinity of symbols reflecting the structure of the inner world. The left and right crosses represent the dual hemispheres of the brain, the divided mind of humanity, reason and intuition, analysis and feeling, past and future. Between those stands the central cross, or the axis of balance, the reconciler, or Christ, consciousness that unites both poles into harmony. So, when the 2 thieves, and it says 2 thieves. I don't know if they were both thieves, but the two people on the cross anyway, on both sides of the cross, or the divided halves of the psyche, are brought to stillness. The center awakes. I'm gonna highlight this because I don't know if they were both thieves. I can't remember. No, one of them was, but anyway, this is the meaning of. Okay, let's reread that. When the two thieves are the divided halves of the psyche are brought to stillness, the center awakens. This is the meaning of today you shall be with me in paradise, the return to unity, the restoration of consciousness to the timeless center. And I don't know, I can't remember off the top of my head which if it was the guy to his left or to the right. Jesus, thief, on the cross. Was it to his right? He just showed. There was a good thief. I guess they may have both been thieves. The criminal crucified next to Jesus. I don't know if it says crucified to Jesus is right. So like, yeah, interesting. So the right brain, which is in charge of like symbolically of intuition, imagination, where your left brain's a logical mind, like your atheist kind of mind, like your scientist mind. So this dude's gonna, usually that kind of mind is not gonna accept God or anything. Or I don't believe it. Da, 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 da. So that's why this guy was open. In other words, that's kind of symbolic of that. Actually, it's showing like the intuition and the imagination, like your childlike imagination. They're more open to receiving God, and that's why a lot of religious people are seeing it by this side as, oh, they're gullible, naive, freaking fantastical. They're ignorant. They think they're above everybody, but they're just actually blind by their arrogance. So that's why this one was saved, and that's kind of symbolic of the this side. The left mind is very the logical thinking mind is detrimental, I guess, as far not that it's bad, but because it's useful in the world of duality, and it's useful, but it can be blinding to like reality kind of. Anyway, I think that's just what that's showing us. It's hard for someone in that like frame of mind to accept God because they're like so combative and want to protect their logical reasoning and whatnot. Anyway, in a resurrection, then, it's not the rising of flesh from a tomb, but the awakening of spirit within form. It's the realization that the cross has never been a symbol of death, but of emergence. Eternal moment where the infinite meets the finite, where the divine meets or animate breath, where the divine breath animates matter, and where the human being becomes the bridge between heaven and earth. Which, okay, the cross within the skull is the throne of that realization. It is the still point around which existence turns. Okay, so the adversary and the divine script. In the book of Job, the devil is not portrayed as an independent force of chaos, but as one but he is seen as one permitted by God to test and refine the human spirit. If you remember, he kind of like works under God. He's in chains. They walk him in, and God allows him to test Job's faith. Basically, he kind of allows him to bring chaos into Job's life, and death and sadness and everything like that to test his faith and integrity. Because and this is symbolic. If we expand this symbolism, the devil becomes a mirror for all the catalysts that shape human evolution. Every fear, temptation, loss, and frustration becomes part of a greater spiritual curriculum, designed not to destroy us, but to awaken us. The adversary is not a villain so much as a tool through which divinity sharpens the soul. You can kind of look at the devil, if you watch like UFC or anything, boxing and fight, any combat sport, you can kind of look at the devil as your sparring partner. You may not like him in the moment when he's punching you in the face and giving you a body shot and kicking your legs out from underneath you. But he's like there to make you better, like to help you grow, and to reveal your weaknesses and the holes in your game or whatever. Like you kind of look at it like that. So, anyway, when Revelation speaks of those, and I know people are gonna say, what about people may say, what about all the abuse people suffer. It's like, well, honestly, dude, a lot of that stuff is not from the devil. It's from other people, dude, using their free will. So don't like blame like that. It's kind of hard to blame that on everything on the devil or God when it's like, bro, that's just other humans like who are ignorant and like walking around like animals, using their free will to basically become the worse than the devil. Honestly, the devil makes some of these guys look like he's a Boy Scout. Yeah, I mean the devil. Yeah, some people are worse than the devil. I think because of their use of their free will, they use it wrong. But anyway, and the devil may. Now we'll leave that to that. Anyway, when Revelation speaks of those who call themselves Jews but are of the synagogue of Satan, this may not refer to a literal group but to a collective mindset, the archetype of deception, vanity, and material worship. These are the energies that seduce humanity into false gods, fame, money, lust, and control, yet even these forces serve a hidden purpose. And what I was trying to say here, I think, because I had ChatGPT help me like write this, and I don't think it liked what I said here, but in Revelation, because I'm not saying that this doesn't exist in the outer world, those who call themselves Jews but are of the synagogue of Satan, but I guess what I was saying is these people, like we are very quick to like want to fight them, and you know, a lot of people are very quick to want to point fingers and blame them and say they're, you know, evil and stuff. But I had the thought that basically these or the elite that rule the world or the shadow government very well may be our collective devil in the book of Job testing society and seeing what we're going to do. Or if you've watched The Good Place, that show where the people die, they think they go to heaven, but they're really in hell. And at the end of the I don't want to spoil it, but if you've watched that, it's been out for a while, the show has, but if you watch that, you can kind of see, like, maybe we're in the good place, and that all of this politics and rage bait and divisiveness is really Satan being allowed to test our faith in God and our unity and our love and stuff, because it seems like it's we've been failing the test for a little bit. So anyway, these dudes literally may be not, and I don't mean to like see on that, but the synagogue of Satan, the elite, the shadow government, the Illuminati, all of it, reptilians, aliens, they may just all literally be like our teachers playing a role, like in the book of Job, to test us and to make us stronger and push us to God and learning and growth and all that. So, yeah, that's what we're talking about here. The architects of illusion in our modern world could be just like the devil in Job, whether through media, politics, or culture, maybe unconsciously playing the same role. They may not be conscious of it, and they may be, I don't know. Or maybe aliens who visit the White House and say, hey, we need you to piss people off, so we're working for God. You never know. This whole thing could be staged, kind of literally like that, like The Good Place. And maybe not, but that's just one. But I mean, honest. And here we go. This world could be likened to the good place where the characters believe they are being punished, only to learn that every trial was a part of a moral education. In the same way, Earth may be a divine classroom, perfectly designed simulation that teaches through contrast. What feels like heaven may actually be heaven's workshop. And if that's the case, that's pretty cool, dude. To be honest, that makes it. Then when you graduate, you're like, wow, okay. I was complaining and whining about all that, and when I heard, people say you would, I don't know. People want to answer all the time. And it's like, you want to, curse God and all this, and it's like you really don't know what you might be in for. So just do what you can do and try to focus on yourself. In other words, right? When you're in school, like taking a test, you're not focused on all the other people taking a test. You're just focused on what you're put your head down and take care of your business. So even the so-called evil plays a part. To love one's enemy, then is to recognize their sacred function. So actually appreciate your enemy. It actually says that love your enemies. And maybe that's even deeper than we think, in many ways at least. I want to do this last chapter here because I like this. Let me see. I like this chapter. So we're going to move on here to the inner archetypal round table, like in Arthur's round table, King Arthur, and walking through the mind. So handling relapse, like if you do relapse, you're trying to overcome things. So when you experience relapse, whether drugs, porn, or other habits, the instinct is to often fall into guilt and shame, and then you find yourself. So in other words, you find yourself in this cycle most of the time where you relapse and you're like, oh man, I did it again, and then you feel bad, oh man, blah blah blah, and then usually you say, or a lot of people will say, well, I screwed up, or at least I would do this. I'd say, well, I screwed up maybe one more time today, or well, I'll get back on track Monday. And then Monday comes, and you may go another week, and then you relapse again. And then you get back feeling guilty and shame and all this. So, you'll be careful about that. But at the same time, if you tell yourself it's okay, like, oh, it's all good, it's okay, that removes the necessary boundary between action and intention, and that signalize what you're doing, and you don't know it most of the time. When you say, oh, it's okay, man, it's okay, you're basically signaling to your subconscious mind that the behavior is acceptable and may continue unchecked. So you gotta be careful. Like, if you relapse, you don't say, oh, it's okay, I'll get back on track. Don't say it's okay, because you're like kind of programming your mind in a weird, like they say, spells, casting a spell on yourself. That's what that kind of is. The subconscious mind is actually weird. If you actually work, just practice programming your mind for like 1 month and see how, like, it's almost like your mind, like there's two people in your mind. Like, it's almost like, it's pretty interesting how your mind's literally like a computer that you can program and literally change your whole personality and like your whole life and stuff. That's what MK Ultra and stuff. It's basically using like using I don't want to say MK Ultra because of the negative connotate whatever the negativity that brings. They were basically trying to use that for this stuff for negative control and power, but you can use it on yourself to, actually empower yourself. And like Mike Tyson is a good example that comes to mind. When he was growing up, his teacher or coach, Cus D'Amato, would they would do like affirmations or hypnosis and stuff, and like he would like repeat after him, repeat or something like, I'm a monster, I'm furious, I forgot what he said, but he would like basically say these things, and he's subconsciously programming himself, and then your subconscious mind will like, it kind of like just makes it easier for you. It just like the subconscious mind takes care of like your organs and your like digestion and all that and breathing, it'll like start making you just naturally without trying. That's where it makes it easier to be instead of acting. You don't have to try to act. You don't have to fake it till you make it. It makes that, like, honestly, like you're just programming a computer. It makes it a lot easier to change. So the ideal approach is a middle path, acknowledging what happened. Like, so when you relapse, acknowledge what happens, but don't identify with it. So something like this, like if you relapse, like smoking weed or watching porn or something, you can say, okay. You don't say, oh, it's all good, man. You say, okay, that's behind me now. Now is now. I'll move forward and move past that. So you're basically saying, this action is in the past. It does not define me. I am present and moving forward. And I know a lot of people don't talk like that. I don't talk like that. But so like I would say something like, if I relapse, I'd be like, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. And I'd probably be journaling this so I could see it. Be like, yeah, I relapsed today. I put this, or I will leave this in the past, and I have learned this triggers. I like to see what triggers it. I like to write everything down. What triggered it? I got bored and da 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 da, and blah blah blah. And then you just have to make sure you frame it. You don't say, yeah, I went to the hub today. It's all good though. It's okay. No big deal. You don't want to put that. You're telling your mind like, oh, it's no big deal. Okay, we'll just keep that right. We'll just keep popping that into your mind then. So, yeah, just it goes back to that perspective like we talked about in the previous part of this teaching. It's how you frame it. It's kind of like everything is framing, and how you frame it. Your filter, like your Instagram filter, how you frame it in your mind's eye, or whatever. So, and this is something moving on. I actually probably could put this in its own section, but I don't know how it's really in here, but oh well, it's pretty useful. But anyway, so if you haven't noticed, this whole book of mine is more like notes. It's more like my notes that are that's why it's kind of all over the place, because I'll just add this, and I organized it, but it's so freaking long that it's like 200 pages now, so it takes a lot of organizing, and I'd rather just make a video on it and talk about it. So here we are. Anyway, something you can do that I learned is kind of cultivate an inner teacher, and it's not, you don't have to like carry this around with you and have an imaginary friend or anything like that. But like when you're journaling or something, or you just like, you can kind of imagine like one method is to cultivate a wise inner voice. An archetypal teacher or Gandalf is someone who I'd like to imagine, for instance, within your mind. So, and I think I've heard this before with someone else. I know I'm not the first one who said this. Like imagine basically figures or mentors or gods from history, basically, and have like your own council, like imaginary council. And you can kind of just imagine yourself like asking them questions. So imagine your inner sage. Like you can like and what this does, I'm gonna say what it does. Like if you imagine like Gandalf, and you're like Gandalf, like you just like yo, like you have a question or whatever. It could be anybody. It could be, whatever. Gandalf, blah blah blah. What should I do here? And what you're allowing is your subconscious mind to speak to your conscious mind through that imaginative figure. So that archetype, you're allowing it to express itself, and you're getting to get under those layers of the subconscious mind. And this is where you can learn a lot about yourself, and it's kind of a little, I guess you could say hack. I don't know. You can kind of, and this is where, like, you can also do it like in writing. Like I've noticed in my own, this isn't a inner teacher, but I've written like a short story a while back. Like just bored, I was like writing a little 2-page like little short story, a little fiction with a wizard and stuff, and I went and I read it. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna read this and like look for unconscious messages to myself, I guess, or symbolism in my own work. And I went back and I was like, wow, and when I was writing it, I was not consciously trying to make hidden symbolism and all that. You're not trying to do that. You're just writing what's fun and feeling good, right? But when you go and read it, like, wow, this is literally like, this can mean that, this can mean that. This represents like this parallels this and that in this religious text. And like, it's like, wow, my unconscious mind was like giving me a sign or a message or, wisdom of sorts. So you can kind of like test that in many ways. But one way you can do it is kind of the inner teacher or imaginary friend. This is kind of what kids do. Unconsciously, and that's, of course, people shut that down and say, real fast because they don't want their kid looking weird. But really, that's just a natural thing. It's almost like they're talking to an angel, you could say, that's taken a form of their imaginary friend. And it could not be an angel, to be fair. It could be depending on what archetype they're talking to, tapping into, like if they're and usually a kid's innocent, so it's usually like not sinister, but you can kind of see that. Anyway, moving on. So, the inner archetypal round table. Imagine your psyche as a round table, and like King Arthur's round table, with seats occupied by different archetypes representing facets of your consciousness. And depending on the system, in other words, I think, in the archetypal systems in psychology, some have 7 archetypes, and some have 12. And we've, I don't know if I've went over this yet, like the 7, I don't think yet we have, but yeah, I'll just leave that for now, what I was going to say, but I'll say it now, like 7, you have 7 archetypes, and I always thought that kind of corresponded with the 7 spirits of God, the 7 colors, and we'll get into all that, but then I was like, well, there's 12, and we'll get into that, because that kind of ties into some interesting stuff, but anyway. The inner council functions as a living ecosystem of energies, each contributing wisdom, courage, creativity, or intuition. Importantly, you have the ability to choose and reset who sits at each seat. So, for example, you may replace unhelpful influences like a self-critical or destructive pattern with a role model or archetype such as Gandalf for wisdom. You can have Goku for courage, or any figure, fictional or real, Alexander the Great, Martin Luther King, Steve Jobs, if you're a business person or something. You can like have all the this imaginary things here, people, and this is how humans naturally will learn from role models, by subconsciously mimicking traits of admired figures. When you consciously curate your inner archetypes, you are effectively guiding your subconscious toward a higher alignment. So, yeah, and that's kind of like, you can kind of look at like this round table, like a kid's. Like when you're growing up, you have like posters on the wall of your heroes. It's kind of like that's your round table. It's the walls. Like you have like these posters, and when you like wake up and you see like you're maybe it's a guitarist. Like I'm getting the freaking image of Jack Black in a Tenacious D where he has Dio on the wall, and he's like subconsciously that just like is reinforcing his rock star identity. And then the show, the movie goes on as it is, and that's a pretty fun movie. I may watch that again. It's been a long time, but yeah, it's kind of like what that reminds me of. The posters on the wall is kind of like the round table, like your subconscious role models that will. You don't have to even sit there when you do that. You don't have to. So this is kind of a hack. You don't have to sit there and try to act. Like if you're trying to change yourself, like I want to be more of a businessman. I want to be like you want to be something instead of sitting there trying to like I'm gonna act like that. What you do is you can say I want to be like them. Or like embody some, it becomes the symbol says like 1,000 words. The image is 1,000 words. So just having like an image of it's not to worship them and all that, right? Because a lot of people, religious people, like to turn everything upside down. And really, that's this. It's kind of funny. They're usually embodying the archetype of Satan, which is trying to, of course, invert everything and make it perverted and keep you from truth and integration. So usually, the people who are saying that, like, oh, you're worshiping them, it's usually that they are basically an agent of the Matrix, like Mr. Smith. So don't listen to them. But yeah, you don't want to worship nobody. You're not putting them on a pedestal, but you are putting them in, or a role where you can learn, like a teacher's role. Not you're not worshiping them. But anyway, there's nothing wrong with having a role model, like a good role model. So. Some people like their parents are would be quick to say I'm your role model, be like me, but if they're like not a good role model, then you're better off having Alexander the Great on the wall or whoever you might want to be like, or Mike Tyson or George Strait or whatever your goals are. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. They don't have a problem with I don't know. Move on. Note on 7 versus 12 archetypes. Some systems describe 7 archetypes while others describe 12. Okay, we were talking about that a while ago. So think of it like colors. This is where it gets interesting. So in the 7 archetypes, like I said, the archetypes correspond to like spirits and stuff, spirits of God and whatnot. Yeah, so anyway, 7 primary colors give you a clear spectrum, but when you add 5 more shades, create subtle nuance, like yellow, green, or blue, violet. Similarly, in music, there are 12 notes, 12 distinct notes in the octave, but there are 7 natural notes, plus the 5 sharps and flats. So in one model of music, not model, but you have 7 natural notes, but when you add the flats and sharps, you then have 12. Also, there are 7 colors, but when you add, when you look at the color wheel, there are 12 colors on the color wheel, and it's round. It reminds me of the round table. I think we get into that down here. The 12 archetypal model works the same way. The extra 5 are not fundamentally different, but they provide finer differentiation, more nuance. Like the 12 knights at the Arthur's round table, each occupying a distinct yet related seat in the circle. So in other words, what I'm trying to like get people to see here is like each color is almost like a different archetype or angel of God or like that. And then there's 12 disciples as well, and all of that. So it kind of is symbolic of, it's pretty interesting. We're just going to get into this, right? So the archetypes, rainbow of archetypes, color, sound, and frequency. You have to remember too, like Nikola Tesla said, think in terms of frequency and vibration or whatever, and you'll know the secrets of the universe. So just remember everything's like energy, and this will like make more sense, right? It's kind of imagine everything's just energetic. So the rainbow of archetypes, the 7 archetypes can be visualized as a spectrum, like the colors of a rainbow. Each archetype corresponds to a color, reflecting its vibrational energy. A musical note, reflecting its tonal frequency. A role or energy, reflecting its expression in your life. So basically, like red well, we'll get to it. Like the colors of a rainbow, archetypes blend into each other, reflecting the continuum of consciousness. There's no hard boundary, just as red shades into orange, joy can shade into creativity, courage into love, and so on. I want to push this down here, though, because that's kind of... Okay, so this is an example. So, in other words, what I'm trying to show y'all here is how archetypes being like, like in psychology, these archetypes are in your mind. So on the collective level, that's what angels or the spirits of God or whatever could be like, are archetypes. And even imaginary characters and stuff are archetypes, or embodying a mix of these archetypes, whatever. But, and it's interesting enough, too, when you look at Christ, who is, contains the 7 spirits of God, as it says, which is like the 7 archetypes. The color represented by Christ is white, which is the result of when you blend all 7 colors on the rainbow together, which, when you blend all 7 colors of the rainbow together, you get the color white, which, interestingly enough, the rainbow is on the clouds. You always see like those images, a rainbow is in the clouds, and where does Christ second return, second coming, say he will appear, is in the clouds, which is where the rainbow is, or the 7 spirits of God, which he embodies. And also, kind of reminds me of like in Dragon Ball, how Goku rides on the Nimbus cloud, and the Nimbus cloud, what does Nimbus mean? I think Nimbus means like halo or something like that, but you have to be pure of heart to ride on the Nimbus, kind of like Christ. So, and even Goku, like, is basically, he kind of parallels Christ in a lot of ways, like giving forgiveness and all this. So, I just found that very interesting, how this, you could maybe say it's all just coincidence. I don't think it is. So you have like this framework here, like an archetype. For instance, this spirit here, let's say that this is Michael the Archangel. So he would correspond to this archetype, the root chakra, I guess, or the guardian. I don't know if that's what that's referring to, but definitely could work. Color, maybe the color red, the musical note C. And this is just an example. I don't know like where it exactly came up with these notes and whatnot, but maybe, this is just an example. But energy, role, grounding, safety, and discipline, protector, warrior. This could be like Aries, Michael the Archangel, maybe, Vegeta or something, So you can kind of see like these archetypes, these spirits, these qualities of the all, the infinite. And then you may have some people with like different blends of colors and like, qualities. So that's just one way to kind of look at that. Creator, love, orange, lover, D, note, example, expression. So that's just kind of what this is about, what I'm talking about here. Let's see if we got more. Light crown, violet. Yeah. So you can imagine this rainbow laid out on a plane with each archetype represented along a spectrum of vibration and frequency. You're basically like they're all the same, it's just which sense is perceiving this spirit. So when you're like seeing, you see the color red, you hear this sound. It's just different ways of picking up the this spirit, this energy, or whatever, perceiving it. So, and this is how white, often associated with the divine or angels or Jesus, can be seen as a blend of all colors, the total spectrum again. So, thinking with feeling and sensation, merging inner and outer worlds. Now, let me finish this coffee so I don't keep drinking it. Okay. So, a deeper way to cultivate awareness is to think with feeling and sensation, not just with abstract thought. So, by integrating your mind, emotions, and body into a single cohesive experience. Imagine a person walking through the woods, accompanied by their dog. In this analogy, the person would represent the mind, walking the dog. Conscious awareness, thinking, and reasoning. The dog walking beside them represents the body, sensations, emotions, instincts, and primal intelligence. Together, the mind and body Dang it. Let me see. Together the mind and body navigate the wilderness of experience. The mind plans, reflects, and reasons, while the body senses, intuits, and reacts. Okay? So the dog's over here sniffing around and like hearing and stuff, and the human's like, planning and reflecting and whatnot. So the dog, your inner beast, is your primal self, highly attuned, instinctive, and capable of perceiving subtleties that the rational mind might miss. This integration allows you to move through life fully embodied. Awareness without the body leaves you disconnected from intuition and sensation. The body without awareness leaves you reacting purely on impulse. Yeah, so you can see both of those in the world of contrast and whatnot. When the mind and body walk together, you achieve a cohesive self where thought, feeling, and sensation all inform and guide one another. This is what philosophers do. They master this integration and they hunt for ideas with their mind and body in alignment. Like hunters going out with dogs in indigenous tribes or modern hunting traditions, philosophers move with awareness, intuition, and embodied skill, navigating the wilderness of thought to track and intuit ideas. So a philosopher is like a hunter of ideas and whatnot. Kinda. So integration and practice, bring all these ideas together, or to bring them all together. Acknowledge, but don't identify. If you do relapse or have a moment of weakness, mark it as a past event, not a defining feature. And don't brush it off as it's all good. It's okay. We'll deal with it. We'll get back to it. It's okay. Don't say it like. Make sure you are mindful with how you frame it. Like, don't say it's okay. Say, I'll be better. This is not gonna affect me in the future. I'm gonna let this down. Or don't even say I'm going to let this down. Say I let it go now. This is done. I'm done with that. Or just be mindful of how you word it. Call upon your inner teacher if you need to. Visualize your archetypal council and activate your inner voice. Or journal, whatever. This is just examples. You don't have to do any of this, but these are just methods. Curate your inner council. You can choose archetypes to embody your ideal traits. And one of the things I actually did this, and I don't have it anymore, but I think it served its purpose. But I had a piece of paper where I went and I looked up the 7 or 12, I think I did seven archetypes, and I went, the warrior, the sage, the teacher, I went and wrote that all down, and then I went and said, okay, who do I want to fill each of these roles? And that's where I got I think I put Goku, or actually, I try to use real people too, like Alexander the Great, whoever it may be. I forgot who all it was. I put some spiritual, like a sage, a teacher there, maybe Jesus Christ on that, and then it could be anybody. Master Roshi. I mean, you can put anybody on there. And this is not you don't necessarily even have to sit there and imagine you're talking to them anyway. Just putting that down on paper is telling your subconscious mind, even if you do it one time, just write it down. And maybe you just put it on the wall and look at it every now and then, just glance at it. Because you don't even have to, your subconscious mind is going to, just kind of know, oh, these are your role models. You're going to start acting more like them. And you'll notice that, because I've noticed this too. And people growing up, when you watch anime, most people act like their favorite character. Literally, look at people who like Vegeta or like Goku or like Piccolo, they usually start acting taking on some of their features, literally, dude. And a lot of people would say, well, they're attracted to them because they act like them. And it's maybe, but not exactly. It's maybe a little bit of both, actually. Maybe they're attracted to them and then they reinforce that. And I noticed this in myself too when I used to listen to a lot of rap music, and then I was like, you know what, I'm going to switch it up and go listen to country music. And then I started listening to rock music and jazz and different things. And when I listen to different music, literally my personality would adapt to the music, especially not instantaneously, but after months of listening to different things. It's wow, I'm literally you're kind of a product of your environment and your programming. So what you put in your mind, and you don't have to make it that crazy. It can be very subtle, just like an image on the wall, or like I said, that list of archetypes, your little round table of role models, and whoever it might be. So, someone who's a business person might want to put Steve Jobs, or whoever on their list, um, or Hershey, because he was like a good businessman who took care of his people back in the day. But anyway, so yeah, curate your inner council if you want. Use color, sound, and vibration. Visualize archetypes as spectrums of light and sound, blending fluidly yet distinct enough to guide perception and action. Think with feeling and sensation. Integrate awareness of thoughts, emotions, and bodily sensation. So basically, start like, and a lot of people may be like one way, more dominant in one way. I used to be stuck in my head because I'd smoke a lot of weed and just be like running. I'd just be in my head all day, like fantasizing or conspiracy theories or, thinking nonstop. And so for me, I was in my head a lot, thoughts. And someone else may be the opposite. They may be in their body and never like aware of their thoughts. So I had to like really like learn to like start being like aware of my body, like actually start feeling instead of thinking all the time. That was kind of my mantra, was feel, not think. So I had to like try to start feeling and actually like be present in my body, like the hunter in the woods, like instead of being in my looking up at the tree. So you want to be balanced, and emotions as well, like which is kind of feeling. It's kind of related to your body anyway, so that's kind of the same. But you want to be balanced and merge the inner and outer world. Move forward consciously. Treat every moment as a chance to realign with your higher archetypal council. And I actually haven't done this the round table thing yet in a while. But I don't really think you have to. I don't think it's, personally for me, I didn't have to like continually. I don't go like look at a piece of paper every day with my round table on it. I really think just like writing that down and maybe I should do that again. I don't know, but writing it down at least once and kind of just telling your mind like, hey, these are who I kind of want to be like. I like the way they walk and carry themselves and treat people and stuff, and I want to be respectful like them or whatnot, instead of just following all these random influences. And that's what influencers are. They're influencing you. So I think we're going to stop there on the video now. I think it's a pretty good lengthy video. We're on chapter 76 now. The divine animal and the divine and the animal. Yeah. Okay, here we go. So anyway, we're getting through it. It should be faster, I think, anyway. But anyway, that's going to be the rest of this video. So yeah, y'all have a good one, and thanks for watching.